So everyone, greetings and welcome to Peering at the Outlands. This is the Chivalry edition, and tonight my very special guest is His Majesty Sir Béla Kós. Kós. I was like, I know it's something different, and I know I've immediately earned my first beating, so I'm already doing well. In fact, we should have a tally board for every time that Finn's going to get his ass whooped for something on the show. Maybe our viewers at home can go ahead and tally those up. I know Akalina's going to come at me with something at some point in time. So thank you so much for taking some time at ass whoopings. -1, or is that supposed to be just one?
That's just one.
That's just one?
You're up to one already.
I'm just, okay, so clearly the tech crew for our show, Kal, is earning some credit in the Outlands when he decides to cross the border from Radies. 2.5? No, not yet. Okay, whatever. So thank you very much for joining us today to chat about Chivalry, to realistically just kind of hang out for a little bit and get to enjoy your company. I know that there are great changes afoot. I know that events are being announced. I know that we are moving from the gated phase to the not the gated phase. That proper terminology can be found on Facebook or Kingdom pages.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming to talk to me.
Thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed watching your shows and all of the shows on the Peering at the Outlands format. Like especially Sabia's shows were hilarious. And watching Slane get really, embarrassed about a whale penis being talked about on the show. That was a lot of fun too. So yeah, I've enjoyed these shows a lot, and I'm glad you guys are willing to be hosts of them. And it's a pleasure to be on.
I mean, anytime you get a chance to talk about a baculum, why would you not do that?
Why not? Right? Exactly.
Especially, I know that there are folks that run around out there with raccoon baculum through their nose, and it's one of those, I don't know if that's a conversation starter or a conversation ender, but you do you, man.
Well, at that point, how do you not say, good to see you, Dick Nose? Like, how do you not?
I mean, I don't have the self-control not to, so I completely get it.
Yeah.
So this show is going to be especially fun for me in that I have a kind of unique perspective on a relationship with you, in the sense that when I first started the SCA, you were in my barony. You were the dude that stood out on the field like, okay, who's next? And later found out who you were, kind of thing. You were always exceptionally gracious. You were always kind of very curious about people's interests, people's involvements, and you're always willing to go out there and train, and always willing to fight. And I mean, as this is the Chivalry, we might spend about 3 or 4 minutes talking about fighting. But that's really kind of about that. I think that's been the most I've talked about fighting in any one of my shows. So everyone out there is like, aren't they the fighters? I don't know. But being a member of your household, having the opportunity to train with you, this actually brings me immediately back to the slides. So the slides that we've used for all these shows have been hilarious to me. Like there's the picture of me with the axe and everything else, and a kit that it's not my helmet. It's like I gave away that tabard. I gave away all that stuff. It was for a specific tournament. And then there's a picture of me doing the like, which is pretty pro forma for any court that I've participated in or anything else. But more importantly, you've got the picture of you in your helmet. And for people that have not had the opportunity to fight Béla, there's nothing better than looking up. Well, I mean, I'm shorter than you. Than looking up and trying to wrestle you in we're not grappling, but I'm going to get this inside edge. And too many times has it been that. You really want to try that? Okay, tell me how this ends up for you. And generally, the next thing I know, I've been hit top to bottom a couple times, and it's one of those. That didn't work. But I'm going to try it again, because I bet next time he's not going to expect it. Much like you always fall for the Superman. You never block it with your Madu, just like.
Well, that's an impossible shot to block, right? The Superman punch, you just can't.
Okay. Throwing that against you during the crown tournament that you won, the most recent crown tournament and everything else. I was like, oh, everything's set up. I'm going to go for it. Huh. Ha ha! Hey, Finn, did you mean to do that and miss? Yeah, I bet they didn't hear that on the sidelines. Everything's completely fine now.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, there are guys out there that throw me around too. I mean, I once tried to wrestle with Casca when we were both Crown Prince at Great Western War, and I was, I had beat him in the tournament a little while before that, like 20 minutes before that, and then we were doing pickups. And I was feeling pretty good. I'm like, yeah, I can get in here and muscle around with Casca a little bit, and then the next thing I know, he ragdolled me and threw me 20 feet through the air, and I'm giggling like a schoolgirl the whole time I'm flying through the air. And I hit the ground, and Casca comes over. He's like, "Bro, are you okay?" And I can't stop laughing. And I was like, "That's the greatest thing ever, man." He told me how dumb that's what I get for losing my humility.
That's when you're just like, oh, so that's what everybody else feels like. I get it now.
Yeah, there's always somebody out there that can muscle you around and throw you around too. So, I've been on both ends of that.
That immediately leads me to two different stories. One that I've already mentioned, with Casca being an absolute gentleman, of legging me and then just standing over me, a mountain of thunder, and just kind of being like, "Go get back in line, little kitten. You're done for the day." And then the second was, I want to say it was in Australia, but like being your squire, I was right by your side and everything else. Pretty useless, probably getting in the way of most of your shots. But some shieldman sees you out by yourself because, quite often you'll fight. It's one of those, everybody crowds in. How can we protect you? And you're like, space protects
room to move.
And this dude just comes charging at you like, oh, hell yeah, fresh meat on the menu. And then I just see him flying through the air, and you're like, next. And that, and one of your previous squires, Sir Gabe, with that stupid little dagger that I
murder dagger.
I had to pick it up. Those things are such a trip. He and I at Great Western just inappropriately launching off of hay bales and cleaning aside, with everybody like, you're not supposed to jump on hay bales, and you're not supposed to ride someone's helmet to the ground. And it's always one of those, sorry, Outlands. You just kind of grin and you smile about it. But
I actually found a video of a Great Western War. I think it was the last Great Western War or the one before it. And you actually threw a Superman punch with a 9-foot spear.
Guilty. I was told that my card is in the mail, so hopefully it's still valid, or I'm just going to get a big old, don't Superman with a 9-foot spear.
Well, you didn't palm the spear, so you were good. It's still legal.
I mean, since we're going to quibble on rules, you're absolutely right.
It's still legal. There's nothing illegal about a Superman spear shot.
There was a marshal at that event that watched me because I was standing out on the far periphery and just kept jumping and throwing those shots. And the marshal was just kind of like, shit, I didn't know we could do that. That's cool. You don't want to hear a marshal say that. And then if they're agreeing with you, you're like, well, I guess I'm safe.
You just got to make sure you're not hitting too hard. As long as you're not hitting too hard, it's perfectly legal.
Yeah, and that's, again, as long as you're bringing the fun, as long as you're bringing the joy, as long as everyone around you is laughing, generally at me, then I figure, hey, we're good.
That's right. As long as somebody's having fun.
Yeah. Yes, that's the good part. So as the introduction monologue rolls on far longer, I did want to echo you in the opportunity to say a hearty thank you to the landed nobility. I've had the opportunity to do that job. I can't imagine doing it during these present circumstances, but everyone has been so fantastic in guiding their populace and kind of giving all the information so that we know what to expect as we start to reopen. And of course, thank you to your majesties for all of your continued hard work and really encouraging everybody and making certain that people remember why we love this game and why we want to come back to it and why we want to safely be able to see our friends again. And finally, mirroring a thank you to all the officers, both at Kingdom and at local levels. Like, y'all have done amazing work. So thank you very much.
It's been so SCA during COVID time has been interesting, to say the least. It's very much different than what we're used to. But when I look across the known world, one of the things that I've commented on a lot during this is I think the SCA got very lucky during this time frame because there were so many people in the royalty positions across the known world that had done it multiple times. They were very experienced. I think we only had like 2 or 3 crowns across the known world that were, one of them was a first-time crown or something like that. So it was all, most people that had done it 2 to 4 times already. And so experience-wise, most of the kingdoms had really experienced crowns when we started COVID times, and some of those people have changed, but we've been really lucky. And honestly, in the Outlands, we've been really blessed that, Her Majesty and I have had a great set of landed nobles. We've had, the barons and baronesses really care about their populace, and they really care about the SCA, and they've all gone out of their way to do what they can and do their part to keep people interested and keep people wanting to do things in the SCA. And then to further expand that, we've changed a lot of kingdom officers, but both the people that were replaced and the people that have come in have all just done amazing jobs. And most of the, it's not like we were changing people because they weren't doing a good job. It was, their time just happened to come up during this pandemic. Right. So we've been blessed, we've got a lot of great officers, and from what I've heard from the landed nobility, they've had a lot of awesome help from their local officers as well. So, the Outlands has been pretty blessed that way. So I'm very lucky and happy to see how we as a kingdom have handled things. And I'm very much looking forward to things opening up again and getting to start having in-person events. And it's kind of weird. I think the first thing that we're going to do in person is a baronial polling, and I'm actually looking forward to that. So,
and was this from Hug? This made a huge difference having the experience you do. To Christopher, hey, good to see you, man.
I love that guy. He's awesome.
He's so great because he'd played a bunch and everything else before I joined, and then he would turn up at the Cairgalen practices and everything else. And even though he wasn't putting armor on, he was always so exceptionally willing and graceful and happy to work with the fighters, to talk with the fighters. But the one thing that really kind of stood out in my mind as the kind of the epitome of what you want in a man of that station kind of thing was actually at our stepping down, I think. And it's all a big blur, and that's mostly because I was feeding Baron Tigger a bunch of scotch, which he hasn't really forgiven me for, but he looked for my cup every time. And then, of course, Baroness Audrey, she's like, "Where's mine?" But those two are fantastic. But I think the crown had come down and was just kind of milling about before court started, and so the audience and everything else, they're just milling about. But he's standing, like stock, super tall, right in the second row, until he was noticed, and then no, please, your grace, have a seat kind of thing. And that's exactly I'm not going to call it training, but that's what that's what you taught me. That is what any number of people have really kind of not drilled home, but have said, this is what sets it apart. This is how you pay deference. This is how you raise the bar. This is how you show what's going on around us. And but it's been fantastic.
Yeah, and Christopher is one of those guys that has been that example for a lot of people for a long time. I was lucky enough to have him on the Outlands Royalty show, and I had a great conversation with him, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't necessarily know before that. So it was amazing, and I think that's kind of an Outlands thing is even the guys that aren't necessarily, because of mundane life or whatever, they're not able to fight all the time. They're not able to come to a bunch of things. They show up where they can, and they still teach, and they still, are those inspirations and those fonts of knowledge. And, there's just so many people out there like that, and we're blessed to have them around. And that's one of the things I'm truly happy about the ESCA side of things during this pandemic is I think with all these types of shows and various things, especially like Sir Rivkin's Murder of Dukes interviews that she did. I mean, she basically video recorded the history of some of the best fighters of the SCA and got stories in video format that now we have them digitally forever. And we're not going to lose that stuff. So that's amazing.
It absolutely is. And it also, again, this is the childish side of me that makes me laugh, but it leads into one of my questions, which is always the, who knighted you? Who was your knight? Who are your inspirations? And I mean, not to jump the gun. I know that Sir Solomon, or Duke Solomon, Sir Spider,
yeah, just call him Spider. He gets mad.
Just call him Spider. You had at one point in time said, yeah, you can go on YouTube and you can find like Trimaris Duke U, and look him up or whatever. And, he's giving an impassioned discussion of fighting. And if you don't want to fight, then just like, no, he's not. He's certainly not an Elvis. Whatever he believes himself, he's not an Elvis. Like, fighter, go make me some pretties or something that coming from him is just coming from him. But if I may ask you, which is better, fighting or doing your laundry?
It depends on the day. It depends on how bad the laundry is, right? I mean,
how bad is that laundry?
So I guess I'll find out on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely true.
So, yeah, for those that don't know, one of the things when I became a squire to His Grace, it's kind of a household joke. He told me I had to be at fighter practice every week, and if I wasn't there, I had to let him know. But I better never tell him I wasn't at practice because I was at home doing my laundry. So it's now kind of a joke with everyone in the household. Whenever you don't want to go to practice or you can't make it, it's I'm gonna go do my laundry instead. So.
And let me just tell you that sending you or Count Leaf or any of those other folks, like, yeah, I mean, practice sounds good and everything else, but I really got this laundry backing up on me. I thought you guys talked mad shit before, but you stepped it into my level of talking shit to people, especially our good friends, Cal from Meridia's. But
yeah,
am I going to get booted out of my own show? Like that might happen.
That's funny. But to answer your question,
thank you, Cal.
That's awesome. To answer your question about inspirations and stuff, man, there's so many guys in Kingdom, out of Kingdom that I look up to as heroes and have taught me so much. St. Craigon. I mean, Craigon, that man can do no wrong. The guy is triple peer. Always, like, he looks like he just stepped out of the Bayou Tapestry at all times. Like, he's just phenomenal. He looks amazing. He walks the walk, one of the deadliest spearmen on the planet. And if you're not looking for him, you wouldn't even see him because he blends in so well. And, Duke Olaf taught me a lot. He was my first king. He showed me a lot of how to carry yourself and how to be a peer. Duke Veron, my knight Solomon, obviously, Rothgar, really a lot of the guys that have been on my show, the Black Duke, love you, Your Grace. In their own way, they've all shown me stuff that, what it means to be a peer. And that's one of the great things is, as members of the chivalry, if you had 30 members of the chivalry in a certain place and you ask everyone to describe their perfect ideal knight, you'd get 30 different answers. There'd be a lot of overlap, and there's a lot of things that like the Venn diagram all matches up on this one thing and on this thing, but we don't all have the exact idea of what a perfect knight is. We all have different flavors and different, something that might be super important to me might not be that important to you. And that's one of the things that I think makes this society so great is we have these people in these positions, these peers, these members of the chivalry, and these laurels and pelicans and masters of defense and royal peers, where everybody's kind of doing the same thing, but they're doing it with their style and their flair and their flavor, and that just makes it so much more fun. Like, if everybody all thought the same and had the same perfect idea, this game would get pretty boring pretty quickly. But it also allows us, especially when you're young and new coming up, that you're a blank canvas, and there's so many great options out there to pull from. And there's so many, I like this thing from this person, and I like this thing from this person, and I don't really like that, but this thing that guy does, I really enjoy. So like, I've always encouraged people to, seek out those things that spark your interest and things you want to learn and want to do, because I might not like it, but if it makes you happy and it makes you want to be in the SCA, then it's great. There's just so many different ways to play this game.
And so along those lines, it's such a fantastic segue, because when people ask, like, well, how do you choose a knight, or how do you express those interests, and I'm kind of like, well, I mean, Béla and I, we flirted for a long time. Like we were testing the waters to see if we were compatible to date or not. And there's some different thoughts, but this one just come up to me earlier today. It was my first Estrella. I had fought in the Allen's Prize tourney. I think I'd been fighting a couple months, we'll say. And the Allen's Prize tourney was eye-opening in that I've never been beaten up so bad. No, I have been beaten up more badly, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was such an interesting experience to be like, oh my goodness, this is fresh meat at the deli counter. Boom, get back in line. But then I went and I fought in the Squires tourney, or the newcomers tourney, whatever it was actually called, kind of thing.
I think it was the newcomers tourney.
Yes, it was the newcomers tourney, and you, for no reason whatsoever, to my mind, were there on the sidelines. You were there in my corner, talking to me through fights and everything else. And after my last fight, I walked off the field, and of course, me being me, like, it's not like, oh, damn it, I lost that fight. It really was one of those, that was fun, that was great, I got to fight, woo! And you looked at me and you pulled me aside and you're like, how do you feel about that fight? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, dude beat me. And you're looking at me like, okay, you left the field with your honor, whether he won the fight or not. And it was definitely one of those initial kind of like, why is this guy watching me? And thank you so much for taking an active interest and not letting me get discouraged at all about it, but being really positive and being like, you're doing some cool stuff out there. Most important thing is you walked off that field with your honor intact. Like, whatever else happened, we're fine. And so as I was learning the ropes in the SCA and everything else, there were two individuals that I really thought would be a good match to be my knight kind of thing, like this ideal. And it was you, and it was Count Robert. But one of the things that really solidified it for me was that Count Robert had entrusted his sons to you to be their mentor, to be their teacher. We are, of course, going to be very polite to our cousins down south, to His Royal Highness Zipster of Adenvelt. And then, of course, there's Gabe up in Artemisia. We'll raise a glass to the Bud Light Night.
Yeah, the Bud Light Night. Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that's 6 or 7 ass whoopings now, Cal.
From all over.
Yeah, I mean, from really all over. Like, I'm fairly certain that Her Royal Highness is going to have words with me. So again, this leads perfectly into that. This mouth has gotten me where I am, and I joined your household because there were such a number of people that I was like, shit, I better get better, not good, just better, really, really, really fast. Because of the earlier thing I alluded to, the thing that kind of solidified the deal between you and I was the Cairgalen Longmont Art Walk, where we showed up to do a demo. It was Sonara and my anniversary, which stood out very much in my mind. And there were 3 people that showed up in armor. There was yourself, and there was Sir Kujin. And my dumbass put my stuff on, and I was like, I'm going to fight you guys. What do you got? And I've got such a fantastic crease across the visor of my old helmet. And people were like, how did that happen? I was like, it was Béla or Kujin. Take your pick. But I just remember the both of you being wonderful, and I think we rallied the crowd because I've never heard "kick his ass again" so much in my life.
Yeah, that was so Kujin and I bring, the old story of steel sharpens steel, and competition breeds excellence, right? And that's true of my household. That's true of most great fighters. They had a group of people that pushed them along their way, that they wanted to be better than. And it's Kujin and I, he was my squire, but he was a great fighter. We come from a similar background, mixed martial arts background, kickboxing, boxing background, and then SCA fighting. And so when he and I would fight, it would always get ratcheted to an 11 pretty quickly. And unfortunately for you, you were the only other guy there. So we'd go to an 11 until one of us was tired, and then you'd take their place. And that guy was still at 11. So about halfway through the night, Kujin and I were taking a water break, and we looked at each other and we were like, oh man, we've just been beating the dog snot out of Finn for like 2 hours. Like, we should probably be nicer at some point.
Yeah. I believe that's when Kujin said, "You suck at sword and shield. Here, try this axe." And I was like, "I don't know if I'm allowed to." And he's like, "Oh, you're fine." And that should have been knowledge enough for me to be like, I should stop. But again, that's never, for better or worse, I immerse myself in a group of individuals who love fighting, are knowledgeable about fighting, want to share their love of fighting. And I always wanted to be like, oh, Finn's on my side. I don't have to worry about that. And I think that that's one of the most important things. I think that's one of the coolest things, especially when when we were traveling kingdom, going to wars all over the place and everything else, is that, we would, our small group of Islanders, like the 9 of us, the 11 of us, the 4 of us, or whatever.
Yeah.
And people were just like, "Oh shit, what side do you want to go on? What do you want to do?" kind of thing. Like, we could write our own tickets. This goes back years and years, but one of my first Great Westerns, and I'm gonna screw it up. It's not Titus, it's Thorsten. Like, we've talked about that, and how there were so many squires that went out that year, and all of them are knights now, and we just had a blast. Like, we were just out there mixing it up, having a good time, kind of thing. Just representing the Outlands and having fun, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's, it's one of those things that I'm really lucky I come from a household in Dufran's Gold Star household that started in Trimaris and then moved out here when he moved out here. And if you look at the line, His Grace has several dukes that were his squires, and a lot of those squires have had squires that have had multiple counts and dukes, and down to me. And I've talked to people a lot. A lot of people talk to me about things like, "You've been king multiple times. You've been king this many times. That's your legacy, and your legacy will live forever." And I always tell people, like, no one's really going to remember how many crowns you win or what kingdom law you change or whatever, because that can all be changed again. My true legacy is in Kujin and Zipser and Gabe and Leaf and you and Dane and all of those, the people that were my squires that are now taking squires and teaching other people how to be peers. That's what my legacy is, and that's how I think all peers should look at it, is your legacy is the people that come after you, that follow you.
No, yes. My laughter is in support, not at the comment itself, kind of thing. Only because I remember at one point in time you were talking about like making a belt kind of thing with the heraldry of your squires and like their achievements, so to speak, kind of thing. And so you'd have, at this point, just about all knights. You would have a number of counts. You'd have Gabe, which would probably be like the Wobbly H, or like I'm certain we could get Seabass, His Excellency Sebastian, to tool a bottle of Malort on there with the Wobbly H right next to it, kind of thing.
That's just wrong on so many levels.
I get it. That's why we have to make it happen. I will talk to you later, Sebastian. Or just, but it's cool. Like I like that perspective on it, kind of thing. Like that was, again, a conversation that you and I have had that I've repeated ad nauseum to people, like the kind of idea of producers and consumers, the idea that what continues to drive us forward is everyone taking a turn at the wheel. And we've, again, not to drag it to the mundane, but we've seen that. We've had the opportunity for people to, when they have the energy and the time and everything else, to really kind of push it forward, to keep everyone engaged, to keep everyone interested in what's going on. And that's why I'm so excited to see what's kind of coming next. Like, is this the dare I say, the Renaissance? Is this the chance where we get to see a rebirth of people's excitement and where they want to go for some of these things?
I really hope so. I really think, I think time away and not having the opportunity to be at an event every weekend, like so many of us have been for so long, you kind of really start missing that. You really start, like, I'm not a people person at all. Like, I have always been straight up about, I don't like people. I'm really not a people person. But what this has really taught me is, in my worldview, the people of the SCA are not people. They are my family. They are my tribe. And I've missed so many people so much, and I can't wait to see everybody again. And I can't wait to see the new skills that people have been learning while we're on lockdown. And I can't wait to, see people's growth and in their arts and in their service. And it's just, I'm really looking forward to it.
And even on a basic level, the expansion of people's families. Like, we have our populace has grown during your tenure, and we had the unique opportunity the other week to go out, just a small group of people, and we were hanging out with Siegfried and his son Corbin, and it was Corbin's first camping trip, and they're like taking a 9-month-old, right, camping, and like, just, well, not in the SCA context, but getting to see how our families grow, getting to see how we get to make those connections. Like, those are all the things that we've missed out on, and I think that we are all ready to kind of dive back into. And so I look forward to it. Like, like you said, the first event back might be a baronial polling. Never something that anyone was like, oh man, let's go poll. Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And it's, I'm just so much looking forward to it. Like, I can't wait to see people. I can't wait to get to talk to people I haven't seen in far too long, right? Far too long. I want to get to this question that's been up there, and that's all I can think about.
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Jean-Marie asked, who inspired me that's non-fighters? And that, I think, is a really great question. I'd have to start with, obviously, all of the ladies that I've been fortunate enough to be crowned with. They have all inspired me in some way to be able to win the crown of the Outlands, first and foremost. And it was an honor and a privilege to serve the kingdom alongside of them. They're all strong, fierce, independent women, and they all taught me something that in some way helped me become a better peer and a better king. So those people for sure. Outside of that, we've been so blessed. There's so many amazing, wonderful people. We've had so many wonderful queens that weren't my queens that inspired me. Duchess Aziza, Duchess Madigan, Countess Sabine, Duchess Eleanor, and then just people that always are, generous with their arts. Mr. Jean-Marie is a great example. Baron Andro, man, I miss that guy and all the things that he used to do for Cairgalen and for the kingdom. There's just so many people that have throughout the years and inspired me and shown me different ways to be better and different ways to serve the kingdom. And that's when you're crowned, it's to me, it's the ultimate service role. It's the number one easiest, fastest way to give back to the most amount of people. And the best way to do that is make it fun for people and show people that you care and show people that those things that might not be mainstream SCA activities or whatever that are super important to them do have value in our game, in our society, and are important. And, I could name people forever. Craig on, but he's a fighter. Sarah. There's just so many people that have shown me so much throughout the years on why the society is important to me.
Definitely. And I love that it's Jean-Marie, my first Baroness, that throws it out there, because as much as she wants to also say, what about non-fighters? She gets out there and she's a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely.
She and Countess Mage,
Mage,
small but mighty. We will get out there. But again, I think that's I've been very fortunate as well in that I started on the heavy field, but would also fight on the rapier field, fight on the light field kind of thing. And it was incredibly important to me. Not only, when I was Baron, Cairgalen has such an amazing rapier community, but a great heavy community. And being able to kind of be a part of both of those, be able to go out and shoot archery, be able to go out and do arts, like all these things. And again, this is, a testament to your teaching in many ways of two things. One, do what you want to do what you're passionate about. And then the most important lesson that you ever kind of mentioned to me, and that I think is important to any squire or anyone out there listening right now, is no is always an answer. You need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, to be your own person and say, that sounds great. That's not for me. And if the crowd that is around you is not accepting of that, well, then whatever.
Yep.
Move on. But yeah, no, I just, the idea of, non-fighters and inspiration, we've been very fortunate. We're lucky. We're blessed, as you say, in that we have so many people that continue to work, to continue to inspire, continue to engage. There's a second thing that was put up there. Count Robert would like to know which of your squires surprised you the most by becoming knighted. And then there are 4 knights over watching with me, and they're full of questions. I'm filtering, and I certainly appreciate that. You probably are clearly the voice of reason within that rabble.
I don't know that I'd say I was surprised that any of my squires got knighted, because they all had the abilities and they all had the peer-like qualities and the things you look for in a peer. So I'm not surprised. I would say I think Gabe probably made it a lot harder on himself than he had to. When it takes you 2 years to get someone to wear pants at an event, or when they intentionally lose a fight in a tournament because they want to go eat a can of SpaghettiOs, makes my job a little harder.
And what I will say, and so Sir Gabe's Fane Scroll that has him climbing a ladder to get to SpaghettiOs, like that is a fantastic, like just history of an individual, history of the Outlands inspiration.
Yeah. I love Gabe to death, but sometimes he made my job a lot harder than it needed to be. And whenever I say something like that, I'm sure Spider's sitting off on the sidelines laughing and going, "You got exactly what you deserved," because I used to do a lot of things that he didn't find as funny as I did. So, when you fight with a Madhu and all the knights keep telling you it's the tool of Satan and you shouldn't be using that and all that stuff, and then you go over to your knight who's with all the dukes and counts and knights, and you go, shield's a tool of ignorance. Any moron can use one. I'm sure that doesn't go over well.
But again, I think that plays into your laundry comments that, oh my goodness, the dukes are lining up to teach me a lesson?
Yeah.
This is not a bad thing.
I learn faster by doing than by watching. So if I could make a comment or if I could say something that made somebody want to spend 20 minutes on the field with me, that's a win-win situation.
Well, wasn't that His Grace Olaf?
Yeah.
Just that, like, in my mind, he grows taller every single year, like 6'8" of angry Béla, get out here.
Yeah.
I'll be right there, Your Grace.
Yep. It worked. I said some dumb things to His Grace to get him to come to practice every week because we had 15 new guys and I was still a squire and they needed training. And, I said some dumb things that I knew would make him angry and make him want to show up and beat me up so that I could then get him to work with the new guys. And, it worked. It was win-win. And it didn't take him more than like a practice or two to figure out that the whole reason I had popped off was because I wanted help training guys. And then after that, he said, next time just ask and I'll happily come train guys.
You're like, oh, wait.
Where's the fun in that, right?
I mean, let me go back and check my Squire's handbook, but I'm fairly certain that wasn't in our household guidebook. And this was, I will jokingly make fun of His Royal Highness Zipster for just a brief moment because, again, that dude he's taught me so much, and like he and Gabe were so fantastic in teaching me how to fight properly. Like Gabe was great. He gave me a great sword, my first great sword fight, and he hit me in the cup. And he said, well, that's the last time that'll happen, isn't it? Because he's a tough love kind of guy. But we joked about this early, Zipster had shown up at a practice and I was very new, very excited, very enthusiastic. And again, you always said to me, be the first one in armor, be the last one out of armor. Like if this is your intention, you're putting on a squire's belt, you're declaring your intention to the known world that this is where you want to go. And people have different paths to that. If you had just asked Olaf very politely, Your Grace, you're a fantastic fighter. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you showed up and helped train the new people? I believe I took a page out of one of your, addendums where it was like, hey, Sir Zipster, would you like me to help get your armor out of the car so I can kick your ass faster? I'm still pretty certain I've got a limp because of it, but it was a fun fight.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of tough love joking. It's all the stuff that I miss. Like I miss those round robin tournaments and whatnot where are like not even the bear pits where you go in there, you do something stupid, somebody lights you up and you get back in line. And there are people that will sulk through line. And then there are people that are like, oh, you're not going to do that again. And the response is generally, don't worry, I'll still be on the field. I'll see you in a minute. And that's that interplay that I think that we all need. Like it can be a serious endeavor. It can be a very competitive endeavor, but I think that we can get lost in that. I think we need to remember that first and foremost, as is often said at war practices after a break, we're all friends here. Let's communicate, let's talk, let's have a good time because we're here to kill our friends, not hurt our friends. And I think that's an important thing that we need to very strongly reiterate as we all put armor back on for the first time. Many of us, I mean, I've looked at my heavy armor and said, oh, I hope you're not molding, but I haven't put it on in a long time.
Yeah, I haven't been in armor in a year and 2 months, but who's counting?
Sweet. I'm going to be able to maybe hit you once.
This is the longest I've ever gone without fighting in my life. So it's I'm looking forward to putting armor on and swinging a stick and just being around people and being able to be at practice and talk trash and banter back and forth, like you said, because that's part of the joy of this game is talking trash with your friends and having that fun, because it's supposed to be fun. What we do is a game. It's where we spend an inordinate amount of our money and time.
Yeah.
So if we're not having fun with it, we should really think about what we're doing, right?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. And it's something that Sinar and I have had many conversations about. Like the fact that this break, this reprieve, this whatever you want to kind of define it as, has opened our eyes to a wealth of other things that we like to do. And we've never discouraged anyone. Like we've always kind of said, and I've heard it told many a time, the SCA will always be here. It's one of those things, do what you need to do and then come back refreshed, come back excited about it. Because we really don't need individuals that are kind of grinding out because they think they need to grind it out. Like I'm over the moon about the squires and the non-belts are that have been counting the days. Like screw Austin. I'm not looking forward to that one. And Ronan, like there's a dude that was like, I'm putting in the time, I'm putting in the work. And I would not doubt that he's going to come back guns blazing. And all I can do is say, you know what? I'm going to give you the best I can, and I'm going to work as hard as I can with you, kind of thing. And that was what you also taught, was that when your squires push and when they push harder and they do these new things, it's always amazing because you're like, that was your one. I see it coming now, and I'm going to get you. But I mean, not to diatribe, but I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Like the we're putting forward is what I want to give back.
There's a group of, I think it's like 7 or 8 fighters who petitioned Jax to fight and challenge him for the warlord position. Mm-hmm. And now things have changed and that's not really going to get to happen. But because of that, there's a handful of them, Ronan, Uhtred, I can't remember everybody off the top of my head, but there's like a handful of them that have been training really hard, and they've been pretty vocal about posting their training online and people can see. And so it's been pretty inspiring. And it's like, I can't wait to see what happens when these guys get together and actually get to fight for the Warlord tournament. I'm really, really excited for that tournament now.
Yep. No, and I thought His Grace offered exceptional words in that the training does not go to waste.
Absolutely.
Just the idea that we make our kingdom stronger, we make our group stronger by that. There was a period of time during the pandemic and everything else that was amazing because a number of individuals, squires, knights, anybody, were posting their Pell routines, they're posting their fighting routines. There was like this, like, I'm ready, come get some. And I was joking with Sir Johan and some other individuals. I was like, well, I might not be hitting a Pell, but I've been swinging a pickaxe a lot. Fane, yo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been in armor for a year and a half, but that's really only like 6 times of fighting that I've missed. So I think I'll be all right.
Having been your training partner, and by training partner, I mean the quasi-obstacle in front of you for some of those opportunities. No, I have to give this out to, I believe it's going to be Master Adams, of course. What words or body mechanics do you use to bait your opponent to throwing a Superman shot? And what I would say is, my one squire, come find out.
Well, the easiest way to bait someone into throwing the Superman shot is to just leave the slot open, make them think that it's easy to hit and easy to land, so that they can want to throw it. The other way that I've found that works really well is to hit them repeatedly with that shot over and over, because then they really want to hit you with it.
Doesn't work. From experience, let me say that doesn't work. And the one time you stopped it with the damn top spike on the Madu, and just like, good try.
Yeah, it's easy to block if you know what's coming.
Well, I mean, it's not like I gave you a wind up. It's not like I gave a countdown. It's not like you could see the look in my eyes of like, It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Why is Finn's knee up in the air all the time?
I've told you, man, I've been really good about that. And as I continue to train in other arenas, I really need to remember that, especially when I'm fighting Sir Griffith, because I felt so horrible about this. It might have been a Warlord tournament. But we were at where we usually have the Keratin War practice down at the Douglas County Fairgrounds. But he and I got into a wrestling match with a 9-foot spear, and I body slammed him. And it was one of those like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I should have. Take it. So this is from Lord Ryu, who I've had an opportunity to fight with and hang out with a number of times. Do you recall any words that inspired you when you were having a rough time? That's a good one.
So I guess the biggest things would be just to always remember that we're here for fun, right? The SCA started out as a backyard party, in funny clothes. And 51 years later, or 54 years later, whatever it is now.
Wherever we are now, yeah.
It's still that. It's still a game and a place to go be with your friends and have fun. So I would say, remember what's fun, find your fun, and do the things that bring you joy. And when in doubt, for especially this is fighter specific, right? But it's kind of not. And I totally steal it from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I will hold no, I will let everybody know that's where I stole it from. Is like I said earlier, we all have our perfect example of what a knight is. Don't dream it, be it. In every way possible, go out and be that example. As long as you do those things, as long as you're working on being that example of what you think the perfect knight or the perfect laurel or pelican or master of defense or whatever your goal is, right? Go out and be that while you're having fun. Everything else will take care of itself. Yeah. If you do those things, everything else is small stuff, right?
And as I'm thinking about it and listening, it's kind of like Ryu, you and this is our Facebook and other things that can kill me. Jerry and your fantastic kid whose name is escaping me right this minute. I can picture the face. You guys coming out and you specifically wearing the armor you want to wear and working on the persona you want to work on. Those are the things that are so minor but so important. Like it gives that texture, it gives that depth, it gives the breadth that we really need. And so all I can say is I can't wait to marshal your next tourney or fight with you at our next practice or anything else. Oh, Toby, thank you. Like those are the things that we miss. And what's going to be, again, crazy to go back to an earlier point is like Toby was like, meh, and now he's going to be not so meh. And we get to see that. Like we get to see our landed nobility and their family, and we get to see all of our friends that we haven't had the opportunity to interact with for so long. That as Master Adam is giving me endless crap. Of course, Her Majesty Narissa can do whatever she wants, but Master Adam is a different story. Congratulations to Jack finishing up middle school, moving on to high school. Like I can't wait to see that dude, and I love that he's out fencing. And were you guys not far and I was lazy? I would love to fight, like this. It's that, as you said, Béla, that family that we've not grown apart from, but we've missed over time. And that reconnection is going to be absolutely fantastic.
And that's, you touched on something that I want to go back to too, is with Ryu and his persona and his kit and the look that he's bringing to the game. Like, there's going to be a portion of our society that doesn't like that because it's not Western European and it's not their view of what the SCA is and blah, 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 right? Fuck that. I hate that shit. It pisses me off. There's so many different ways to play this game. And if that kit and that persona is where your joy is, fucking do it. Do it to the best. Do it to the nines. to within your means, do the best you can with it, and have fun with it, and show people that it's badass, because it is. If we were all 14th century mafia, this game would be really fucking boring, really fucking fast.
I'm just gonna say you look sexy in those shoes at one time, but whatever.
And that's just the thing is don't let somebody else take your fun away, and don't let somebody else's comments or their negativity impinge upon your fun. If your fun is wearing a toga and being completely Roman and doing all that stuff, go do it, right? Go do it to the best of your ability and have fun with it. Enjoy your persona, enjoy your art, enjoy your fighting, enjoy your style, and do it to the best of your ability.
Absolutely. So when you said toga, I was like, except for you, do Xerxes. Except for you. Although when he did show up in the period Roman wrestling gear and everything else, you can see why, he's. Although, good night, Master Béla. Getting out there and fighting all those people like that. That's a dude you don't want to mess with. I remember the Gulf Wars where he cracked a rib during the evening festivities, the evening party and everything else. And so his solution to that was to tape a piece of cardboard against his tabard because he doesn't wear armor. And he knew it was broken. Everyone else knew it was broken. And he's like pounding the rib with the piece of cardboard going, I'll be fine.
I'm armored now.
And that's that. Those are the inspirations that we look to and go, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to wear armor.
Armor's overrated.
Well, okay, to you it's overrated. To me, again, the mouth requires a certain amount of armor.
Fair enough.
But as we close here, we of course haven't gotten to any of the questions, but it has been an absolute joy to be able to spend this time with you. I want to thank the populace for tuning in, for listening, for giving their questions. I really can't wait for the opportunity to see you guys again in person. I want to thank the tech crew, Cal and Sirlith and Edric and everyone else that has really stepped up to make these shows possible, to really give us the opportunity to reach out during this particular time when we can't be in person, to keep the stream alive, to keep the fire going, kind of thing. Like, they are the storytellers. They are the ones that we hope when everything comes back together and everything else, we have the opportunity to sit around and be like, I know it sucked, but wasn't it nice that we still found a way to connect? And of course, thank you to your majesties for choosing the individuals that you did. I think you did better than the other three, but whatever, we'll talk about that later. It's been a pleasure to be able to serve the kingdom within this manner. And I lead into all these things by just saying that this will likely be the last of the shows for Peering at the Outlands for the Chivalry edition. All errors are my own, none of my guests. But it has been a pleasure. It's been a treat. And I thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.